Good afternoon, and welcome to the new threat to law firms, where attackers pretend to be IT. My name is Ernesto Negron. Ivan Reyes is having some technical difficulties. He'll join as soon as possible, but we'll continue on. I'm the Director of Security for the Managed IT Services for Frontline Managed Services. Next slide, please. Just a quick overview of what Frontline Services provide. We have strategic advisory services. We have technical enabled businesses like NOC monitoring services, enterprise service desk, and we also do recovery management and some other services here. Just as a quick note, is that we have a limited time today for this presentation, and please post your questions in the QA section. And if we don't have enough time, at the end we'll follow up with your questions through email. Today's agenda, we have a couple of topics here. We're going to talk quickly about the 2026 cyber threat landscape, why help desk impersonation works so well, the autonomy of a help desk impersonation attack, what we're seeing across the law firms that we support, and where law firms tend to be most vulnerable. And then we're going to discuss about building stronger defenses against the help desk impersonation that we're seeing, and questions that every leader should be asking. They're also going to offer you a free cybersecurity assessment, and if we have available time, as stated earlier, Q&A session. So 2026 threat landscape, so what are we seeing? In the assumption of when they first started tracking, especially for law firms, the key number to pay attention to is 29%. The 29%, even though that may appear to be a low number, but it's a little bit misleading because it's over time that the American Bar Association has started to track these cyber breaches. And as you can see here, if you think about it, nearly one in every third firm has been compromised some form of fashion. You can see here there's about 82% that are detections are malware free, and then the AI enablement with everything that the bad actors are doing now with AI, the amount of the threat the compromise has increased over 89%. So what are we seeing? Cybersecurity, the cyber attacks are evolving. AI is definitely amplifying it. I think the key component is the IT help desk impersonation, especially being the preferred method, especially when the FBI had to make an announcement, what they call a flash announcement, back in May about the Silence ransomware group, because this is their number one attack vector they're doing right now. Law firms are particularly vulnerable because of this information that you have. As you can see here, the FBI, CISO, leading cybersecurity experts have been warning about attacks and about exploiting password resets, MFA recovery, IT support workflows, everything you normally get out of a service desk or a help desk environment. So why help desk impersonation works so well? One is trust, and in preparing for this presentation, I kept thinking about trust, because clients trust you with their data. And then you have the IT, then your users trust IT to help with their problems, right? So and that's where trust becomes a thing. Sense of urgency. Anytime I tell you and I tell all my clients across the board, if there's something that claims to be urgent, push pause, take a step back, take a breather, just making sure this is legitimate. They'll go through routine processes, meaning they'll go through routine service requests and everything, and AI enablement, fast-paced legal environments, authority. They talk about they're impersonating IT service desk individuals, and later on we're going to discuss the steps how to circumvent these things. Autonomy impersonation attack. What to do? As you already know, and this is nothing new, they're going to do reconnaissance on you. They're going to look for public information, social media, and all that kind of stuff. They're going to make the initial contact from phone, Teams. Yes, they do Teams. There have been several cases with Teams impersonation. And just so that you know, Frontline does not use Teams as a form of support mechanism whatsoever. And then they also build credibility over time, just like how bad actors do. They go after you. They'll plan their stage, their attack. They always have a sense of urgency. They'll pretend that your password's being compromised, or they have to reset your MFA account. They're seeing errors and all that kind of stuff. And then what they do is when they reset your credentials, they're gaining access to your systems as a user, and then now you have the last point, which is compromise. Then once they have gained access to your system, they're going to attempt to do lateral movements, and if you don't have the proper tools, you're not going to detect that. So what Frontline seen across law firms? Again, we've seen the increase of high IT help desk impersonations. The key thing I think is targeting password resets. And I think that's where it stands. Voice phishing, the campaigns impersonating IT personal and trusted vendors. Compromised credentials, bypassing MFA controls and other controls that might be there. Again, the AI generated with AI enhancements. If you notice over time, the voice quality has gotten better. The language in emails has gotten better. And even the chat response has gotten better with AI. AI is continuing to evolve. We have to evolve our defenses. And sometimes they use multi-channel approach. They'll send you a Teams chat and they'll bombard you with either emails, and then they'll send you a Teams chat. And then they'll do an SMS text or to your phone or something like that. So that's the kind of mechanism they're doing. So that's what causes a sense of urgency. And the key thing is traditional security awareness training. If you're not training your attorneys, your users on how to identify these, impersonations and deepfakes and all that kind of stuff, you're doing yourself a disservice. And your cybersecurity solution should be evolving with the latest trends out there that's happening. So I'm not going to talk about every single point because I know we're under a time crunch, but you can look at some of these things here. What are most vulnerable? Password reset procedures, remote support. I think remote support sessions are really critical because you should have already established an approved remote support tool. And those should be the only tools allowed on your systems. They should have been pre-installed anyway. There shouldn't be a point where we're having the service desk has to install a different tool for remote access. That should be a red flag for your users. Always have some type of services escalation procedures, and we're going to discuss about a couple of those shortly. After hours and emergency support requests, you have to look at, what is your processes and procedures around those things, as well as MFA enrollments, because what they're doing as well is that once they compromise your 365 account or your Azure account, they're enrolling devices now. So they're trying to get another way to bypass the user's authentication mechanism. So one of the things you could do, you strengthen your identity verification. Implement some type of protocol, just discussing anything about any account. You have to have some type of protocol, verification protocol for the service desk, for the users, a procedure of resetting your passwords, all that stuff, validating identity. Always require ticket numbers and callback. So approved callback procedures, something like, yes, you get the phone call unsolicited, but you're not sure if they're truly service desk, call back the required number or the selected number that you already have pre-approved. So that means, in other words, if your service desk has a main number, call that main number that you're aware of. Don't just accept calls from random numbers and interact with that person. Come up with a way to verify identity through trusted users and independent communication channels. Whatever those may be, that's designated for. Not everything is a one-all fit-all for all firms. It depends on your users, what works for the firm. And maybe also establish a challenge response or a secondary, some type of validation for high-profile risks users or high-profile users. Secure help desk operations. Your help desk should never ask for user's password or even a code or your MFA code. That should never occur. If that occurs, that's a red flag. Standardize on password reset procedures firm-wide. Either you leverage the self-service password reset from Microsoft or other mechanism. Never allow remote access to anything else, just like I mentioned earlier, only unless it was approved access tools, but there shouldn't be any need to install any tools whatsoever. And make sure that clearly define, what IT support will actually do on your systems. You can't cover everything, but no, these are the top things that normally will help you for support, and these are the things they would never do. Next slide, please. Build a culture of healthy scheduling means I always like to say push pause, especially in urgency management. If you push pause, you take a step back and look at it, see if this is truly the person, or do a callback procedure, especially when they're calling you, just to make sure you just take the extra precaution. It's just like, think of it, are you going to cross the street blindly? No, because cars can be coming either way, so you're going to check. So the key things is, do regular security-based awareness training. Again, here goes current employees to push pause, like I said earlier. Yeah, pause is my word of the day. Make reporting suspicious interactions simple and encouraging. Encourage your users to report stuff that may be off. If it doesn't look normal, it's okay to raise the hand or raise the flag. And always reinforce verifying someone's identity. Even if they claim to be IT, just don't accept that it is, because usually if it's IT, they're calling you with a specific ticket number for an issue that you submitted. It shouldn't be unsolicited. Next slide, please. Monitor and improve. So always audit your help desk processes on a regular basis, either quarterly. Always tabletop exercises to simulate real impersonation attempts is really good, because it'll give you an overview of how your users are going to react to potential impersonation attempts, and see if your workflow is accurate, or to help you identify certain type of gaps. Always learn, turn every attempted attack into control improvement. Always evolving to learn, and measure, track response and recovery of all parts of your cyber to cover all parts of your cyber resiliency. Next slide, please. So questions that every law firm leader should be asking, and these are just basic questions. How does our help desk verify user identity? Are you leveraging your MFA tools? For example, if you use Duo like we do, it has ability. You can validate. You can push an identity, push to the user's phone, and they can accept the identity, accept the prompt to validate their identity. Can someone impersonate if you have an internal IT or MSP, can someone impersonate them? What are your procedures for password resets and MFA recovery procedures? Are they efficiently protected? How can users identify they're truly speaking to the IT support person? Again, especially if it's unsolicited, I always put caution, but anytime you speak with a service express representative, two things should occur. One, they should be identifying or letting you know they're calling about this ticket number, which one the user should have submitted or should be aware of. And two, the issue that you submitted, because if they don't have that information, then that call is phony. When was the last time you tested the identity verification process? And are your policies keeping pace with AI-enabled impersonation attacks? So how does Frontline help stay ahead of help desk impersonation risks? Help desk impersonation can't not be prevented 100% just based on technology alone. Even though we require strong defenses, we have stronger defenses, but it goes back to the people process, right? So people and processes and technology, but it's always the people and the process. To me, it's always the people, because even though we have all these tools installed, and I always tell clients, I can protect you 99%, but that 1%, I can't protect you against your people. So part of these cyber, we're offering a cybersecurity assessment for all our listeners. So the whole point is we try to identify potential weaknesses before the attacks actually happen. So we will go through the process of identifying operational and security gaps. Look at what are your current security controls. Do you have compensate controls for some of the gaps, or maybe there are some risks that you have accepted to overall to your initial assessments, and ensuring that they're in alignment either with NIST or CIS. review your help desk and identity verification process, because we could tell you if there's any gaps in there. I mean, that's the key thing for any security assessment, is identifying where the potential gaps and risks are. And then how do you strengthen your defenses against the modern, ever-scaling social engineering attacks? Because the thing is, it's never going to stop. It's only going to get better, and we have to continue to evolve with it. Next slide, please. There is a survey here we just popped up, and it said, would you like to schedule a free assessment? Select whichever option you have, and someone will reach out to you to schedule that security assessment. Okay, looks like I went a lot faster than anticipated. But coming on August 12th, we have another webinar we're going to be hosting called Beyond Copilot: How Law Firms Are Building Intelligent SharePoint Internet Attorneys Can Actually Use. It's a joint venture between Frontline and Kalo Software Technologies. Feel free to scan the QR code. It's at 2 p.m. at August 12th. But they're also, if you're on LinkedIn, you could also register there. They're going to explore how AIs can move beyond the AI hype and build practical, secure, AI-enabled workspaces.
So now we're going to open it up for some questions. Please feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll read them off as they come in. One of the questions that came in just recently was, what are some recommendations that you can help identify help desk identity validation?
That's an excellent question. So one of the things we've been seeing, and speaking with other law firms, to one extent, and I mentioned it earlier during the presentation, is calling back your dedicated help desk line number. Because your service desk, or if it's internal IT or outsourced, you have a dedicated number to reach the service desk or your IT support help desk. Always call back that number. It's because that's the only way to guarantee that, hey, I just received a phone call from so-and-so or whoever the person is in reference to this issue. I want to validate this is actually a person from the team. So this is what avoid impersonation. There has been discussions as well as on the extreme side is creating a code word for your service desk and for your users to mention during the phone call, so they can validate that they're actually speaking to a valid person that understands their systems and is part of IT.
Next question. Are you moving to assist the law firms outside of the US? Let's say Greenland, for example.
Repeat that question.
Are you able to assist law firms outside of the US, in Greenland, for example?
Yes, we could. We're international, so we could assess any law firm anywhere, anytime.
Okay, that appears to be all the questions for right now.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for your time. I hope it was informative, and we look forward to our next webinar. Thank you.